The night sky of Alexia 5 turned red. Not from the twin suns, but from fire. Zarala had never seen such destruction in her life. Her home city, built from glowing blue crystal towers, now lay in ruins. Screams echoed through the air. Explosions shook the ground. And above them, strange black ships floated like vultures, raining down death. "This is not a war," whispered a soldier beside her, eyes wide. "This is extinction." Zarala didn't believe him. She was a proud lieutenant of the Valexian Defense Corps, a royal-blooded warrior trained since childhood to fight. She stood tall, her wings folded behind her back, her armor shimmering with noble sigils. Then she saw him, a human. He was kneeling by a damaged comms console in the rubble, his body covered in dust, his arm bleeding. Zarala's eyes narrowed. "Human, you caused this, didn't you?" The man looked up. His eyes weren't afraid. They were tired. He looked disappointed. "No," he said. "I tried to stop it. I warned you all." Zarala raised her plasma blade, glowing bright red. "You dare speak lies after what your kind did?" The man didn't flinch. "You wouldn't listen. I told your council the Kravax fleet was building up. I gave coordinates. I begged you to evacuate, but your leaders called it human paranoia." She paused. His voice wasn't angry. It was filled with regret. Zarala scoffed. "You humans think you know everything. We Valexians have survived for thousands of cycles. Why would we trust a lesser race?" He stood slowly. "Because we've seen this enemy before, and we lost billions trying to stop them." Suddenly, a loud shriek echoed from above. A Kravax dropship crashed into the plaza, unloading monstrous insect-like warriors. Screams followed. Zarala looked up, then down at her own troops. Most were dead or retreating. Her command post was gone. Her backup? Silence on the radio. She looked back at the human. He was already grabbing a pulse rifle from the debris. "I'm going to help," he said. "You can stay and argue ... or live." She hesitated. No one ever spoke to her like that, not even her commanders. She was of noble caste. She gave orders, she didn't take them. And certainly not from humans. Still ... Something about the way he stood made her pause. He wasn't just fighting. He was surviving. The ground shook again. Another Kravax burst. Through a nearby wall, claws slicing through air. It screamed, heading straight for her. Zarala reacted out of instinct, too late. But the human was faster. He leapt between her and the beast, firing the rifle directly into its face. The alien screeched, then collapsed in a pool of green blood. She stared, stunned. "Now," he said, turning to her, voice cold. "Will you listen?" Zarala's pride held her tongue for a moment, but the smell of burning bodies ... the broken city ... and the fact that this lesser human had just saved her life, it all sank in. "Fine," she said. "But one mistake, and I'll end you myself." He nodded. "Fair enough. Name's Ryder. Lieutenant Zarala of Valexia." "Great. Let's get you out of here, Lieutenant." They ran through smoke-filled alleys, dodging patrols, hiding behind rubble. Ryder knew the city better than she expected. He'd studied every escape route, every tower, every blind spot. "You knew this would happen," she said, panting. Nodded. "Weeks ago. You think I wanted this?" "You could have told someone else." "I tried. The ambassador, the generals, even the queen. They all refused to believe me. Too proud." Zarala didn't reply. They stopped in an underground transit station. It was dark, flickering with half-dead lights. "This tunnel leads to the outer plains," Ryder said. "There's a rebel ship hidden there. If we make it, we live. If not, well..." He didn't finish. Suddenly, a low growl echoed in the shadows. Both of them froze. From the far end of the tunnel, something was moving. Fast, big. Zarala raised her blade. Ryder loaded his last energy cell into the rifle. "We have no time," he said. "Either you follow me, or you stand and fight alone." Zarala looked at the shadows, then at him. It wasn't a choice between pride and obedience anymore. It was a choice between life and death. She nodded once. "I'm with you." And for the first time in her life, a proud Valexian warrior followed a human into the dark. The tunnel was darker than Zarala expected. The glowing crystals that once lit Valexia's underground had gone dim. Wires sparked overhead. Something hissed in the shadows. She tightened her grip on her blade. Beside her, Ryder moved like a soldier who had walked through hell before. Quiet steps. Sharp eyes. His rifle aimed forward, steady. "How far to this?" "Rebel ship," she whispered. "About 1 click," Ryder replied. "But the Krivaks know about these tunnels now." "They'll have scouts," Zarala frowned. "Then we fight." Ryder gave her a side glance. "Only if we have to. Fighting isn't winning. Surviving is." She didn't answer. Her people believed in honor, stand and die with pride. But pride hadn't saved Valexia. Pride hadn't saved her squad. And Ryder. Ryder had saved her. The tunnel turned left, revealing a collapsed section ahead. Steel beams had fallen. The only way forward was a narrow gap beneath the wreckage. "I'll go first," Ryder said, crouching low. Zarala was about to protest, but he was already crawling through. She followed, squeezing through tight space. Dirt rubbed her face. Her wings folded painfully against her back. Suddenly dash movement. She heard it. A sharp clicking sound. Then a growl. Zarala burst out the other side just in time to see a Krivaks hunter pounce toward Ryder. "Ryder!" She leapt forward, slashing with her plasma blade. The Krivak screamed as the blade sliced through its shoulder. Green blood sprayed. Ryder rolled, aimed, and fired into its chest. The beast collapsed. They stood over it, breathing hard. "You okay?" she asked. He nodded. "Nice timing. Next time, don't go first." He smirked, noted. They moved quickly after that, climbing over debris, avoiding broken pipes that sprayed steam. The deeper they went, the more the air smelled of damp and ash. Eventually, they reached a sealed door with ancient rebel markings, an old storage facility from the Valexian Civil Wars. Ryder placed his hand on the panel. "Still works?" Zarala asked. "If the backup power cells haven't drained. Yes." A few seconds passed. The door opened with a groan. Inside was a small hangar, half lit, with a single old stealth ship in the center. It was scratched, patched, and rusty, but intact. Zarala tilted her head. "That's your plan? That flying grave?" "It still runs," Ryder said. "I checked it last week. We get off-world, send a warning to the outposts. Maybe they'll believe us this time." Zarala walked slowly toward the ship. It wasn't the kind of vessel she was used to. No sleek curves, no crystal energy, just raw metal. Human engineering. But something stopped her. A sound, soft, subtle, clicking. From above. Ryder noticed it too. His eyes snapped upward. Krivaks. Pair of them were crawling along the dark ceiling. One dropped down with a scream. Ryder fired. The shot hit its leg, slowing it. Zarala swung up and stabbed it midair, but the second Krivaks had already leapt toward Ryder. Zarala was too far. "No." The beast tackled Ryder to the ground. Its claws slashed at his armor. Sparks flew. Ryder tried to fire, but the gun was knocked aside. Zarala charged. She didn't think, she moved on instinct. With a roar, she slammed into the Krivaks from the side, knocking it off Ryder. It turned toward her, growling, ready to strike again. But Ryder, now behind it, grabbed a fallen pipe and drove it into the beast's back. It let out a sharp, shrieking cry and fell silent. Both of them stood there, breathing heavily. Zarala looked at Ryder. His face was bruised, his shoulder bleeding. "You okay?" she asked, repeating his own words. He smiled weakly. "We're even now." "No," she said softly. "I still owe you." He shook his head. "We're not keeping score." She paused, surprised by his answer. On Velexia, everything was about score rank, caste, debt, honor. But Ryder didn't fight for score. He fought because he had to. Because no one else would. She looked at the old ship again. "Can you fly it?" "Yes," Ryder said. "But once we leave, there's no turning back. No reinforcements. Just warnings and hope." Zarala nodded. "Then let's go." "If this is the only way, I'll follow you." Ryder opened the ramp. As they entered the ship, the old engines began to hum, but neither of them knew the Krevax had already sent a signal, and the next wave was coming, not to destroy, but to capture her alive. Asterisk, the stealth ship shook as it lifted off the scorched surface of VLEXIA-5. Inside the small cockpit, Ryder's fingers moved fast across the controls. Smoke still rose from the city far below. Red flashes lit up the sky. More Krevax dropships were landing. Zarala stood behind him, gripping the railing tightly. Her armor was cracked. Her breathing was shallow. Her eyes stared down at her dying. "Home. I never thought I'd leave Velexia like this," she whispered. Ryder didn't turn. "If we don't warn the next colonies, there won't be anything left to fight for." Suddenly, a blaring noise came from the console. Ryder frowned. "That's ... strange. What is it?" "We're being tracked." Zarala stiffened. "How?" "This ship has stealth shielding." "Yeah, it does." Ryder tapped the screen. "But someone or something is locking onto our location." Before she could reply, a sharp pain exploded at the base of her neck. She staggered back, grabbing it. "Zarala?" I don't." "No." Her fingers touched a strange shape on her skin. Smooth, round, almost metallic. Ryder rushed to her. "Let me see." He gently moved aside her hair. Embedded just beneath the skin at the top of her spine was a glowing mark, an alien symbol, etched in dark silver. "That's not Valexian," he said, "and it's definitely not human." She was shaking. "What is it?" "I've seen something like this before. It's a Krevax hunter's tag." Her eyes widened. "What?" "They tag key targets. Rare species. Valuable ones. They don't just want to kill you, Zarala. They want to take you." She backed away, her voice trembling. "They marked me like prey, not prey," Ryder said quietly. "Like a specimen." Zarala felt sick. Her people were warriors, leaders, nobles. She wasn't some animal to be hunted and stored in a tank. But the Krevax didn't care about pride. They cared about domination. Ryder looked serious. "We have to get that tag off. If we don't, they'll follow us wherever we go." "How? Surgery?" He shook his head. "No time. The ship doesn't have the tools. We have to go somewhere safe. Somewhere they can't reach us long enough to remove it." Zarala clenched her fists. "Then where?" Ryder hesitated. "There's an old moon base, human-made, abandoned decades ago after a reactor leak. The Krevax won't expect anyone to hide there." She nodded. "Take us there." He adjusted the course. "Hold on tight. The ride's going to be rough." As the ship entered warp mode, Zarala sat in the back compartment, staring at her reflection in a broken screen. The glow of the Krevax mark pulsed faintly beneath her skin. She wanted to scream. She wanted to rip it out with her own hands, but more than anything, she wanted revenge. Suddenly, the intercom crackled. "Zarala," Ryder's voice came through. "We've got company. 2 Krevax interceptors just dropped out of warp behind us." She jumped up. "How close?" Too close. She ran to the cockpit. On the rear screen, two sleek alien ships were slicing through space, gaining speed. Shields. Up? She asked. Minimal. This old thing wasn't built for battles. Zarala didn't wait. She sat at the second seat and activated the ship's rear cannons. Then we shoot. Ryder glanced at her. You sure you can handle that? She narrowed her eyes. Try me. The chase began. The ship rocked as plasma blasts streaked past. Them. Zarala gritted her teeth, aiming the rear cannons with precision. She fired. One shot hit the wing of an interceptor. It spun off course, but quickly regained control. They're too fast, she yelled. Ryder swerved sharply. We just need to make it to the shadow of the moon base. If we get close enough, we can lose them in the debris field. Zarala kept firing. Her hands were steady. Her rage was focused. The mark on her neck burned, as if mocking her. But she ignored the pain. With one final blast, she clipped the engine of the closest ship. It exploded in a burst of green fire. Yes. She shouted. The second interceptor fired again, hitting their right wing. Brace. Ryder yelled. Sparks flew. The ship spun. Alarms rang. Smoke filled the cockpit. But through the chaos, the moon appeared in the distance, cold, gray, and covered in twisted metal ruins. There it is. Ryder shouted. They dove into the debris field. Broken satellites. Scraps of old warships. Clouds of dust and metal fragments. The interceptor tried to follow, but the wreckage was too thick. One wrong move and it collided with a floating cargo. Bay, bursting into flame. Silence followed. The ship slowed. Ryder exhaled. We made it. Zarala leaned back, heart pounding. She wasn't safe. Not yet. But for the first time since the fall of Valexia, she had hope that maybe, just maybe, she could take control of her fate. The ship hissed as it landed on the cracked surface of the abandoned moonbase. Dust swirled around the landing gear. Jagged towers of broken metal rose like silent ghosts from the gray soil. Zarala stepped out first, her boots crunching on the cold ground. The air smelled of rust, decay, and forgotten battles. She glanced around, her blade in hand, wings tucked close to her back. This place looks dead, she said. Ryder followed behind her, carrying a metal case filled with old medical tools. It is, but sometimes dead places are the safest ones. The two walked toward the main dome. Its entrance was half buried under debris, but Ryder found a side hatch. He kicked it open with effort, revealing a long dark corridor lit by flickering lights. As they entered, echoes followed their every step. The walls were stained, the floors cracked. Old human symbols marked doors long sealed shut. One said, "Warning, reactor leak, authorized personnel only." Zarala paused. "Is the air safe?" Ryder nodded. The leak was sealed. It's just fear keeping people away now. They reached an old medical room. The equipment was ancient, but some still worked. Ryder powered on a console using a portable core, then motioned to a table. "You'll need to lie down." "I have to get that Krevax tag out." Zarala looked uneasy. "And you know how?" "I've done it before," he said softly. "Once, on a prisoner they had tagged, and did they survive?" He didn't answer at first, then quietly, barely. She stared at him, her pride and fear battling inside. Finally, she lay on the table. "Do it." Ryder rolled up his sleeves. His hands moved with calm focus. "This will hurt." She closed her eyes. "Pain is nothing." But when the metal probe touched the skin near her neck, a sharp burn surged through her body. Her back arched. She gritted her teeth but didn't scream. He worked carefully, using an old neural disruptor to dull the signal from the tag. They built this thing to bond with nerves. "If I rush, it'll fry your spine. You better not rush then. Minutes passed. Sweat ran down Ryder's brow. Zarala's hands clutched the sides of the table. Her face was pale. Finally, click. The tag popped out. It was a small disc, black and alive with green veins. Even in Ryder's hand, it pulsed faintly, like it remembered what it had done. Zarala exhaled, her body relaxing. It's out? He dropped the tag into a sealed containment box. It's out. She sat up slowly. I can still feel it. That's normal. Phantom signal. It'll fade. She looked at him for a moment, then did something she never thought she would. She said, "Thank you." Ryder smiled faintly. "Didn't think I'd hear that from you." "Neither did I." Before he could answer, a sharp alarm blared across the hallway. Zarala jumped up. "What now?" Ryder checked the console. Movement detected. Outside. Something triggered the outer sensors. Cravax? He shook his head. Too small. Not ships. Just one signal. Zarala frowned. One? They rushed to the control room, watching through cracked security feeds. On one screen, a tall figure moved through the dust. Its body shimmered. It had long limbs, plated armor, and a smooth head with no mouth. Only two glowing red eyes, Zarala's. Voice turned cold. "That's a reclaimer." Ryder blinked. "A what?" She stepped back, wings flaring. Cravax elite hunters. They don't destroy. They recover. Valuable targets only. Ryder understood immediately. "It's here for you," she nodded, "and it's not leaving empty-handed. We need to leave now." "No," Zarala said firmly. "If we keep running, they'll never stop. This thing is fast. It won't give up. Then what? We trap it, kill it here." Ryder thought for a moment, then nodded. "Okay, but we do it smart." They moved fast, sealing hallway doors, setting up old turrets, rigging traps with leftover explosives. Zarala stood in the main corridor, waiting. Her hand rested on her blade. The wound on her neck still ached, but her pride had returned. The lights flickered again. A shadow moved in the distance. Then it stepped into the light. The reclaimer had moved silently, walking with unnatural grace. Zarala raised her blade. "Come then," she growled. "Come claim me, if you dare." The air inside the moonbase felt heavier now, thick with tension, with fear, with fate. Zarala stood still at the center of the corridor. Her eyes were locked on the approaching reclaimer. The alien hunter didn't rush. It moved slow, confident. Like a predator walking toward its meal. Behind her, Ryder whispered into a comlink. "Zarala, keep it centered. We've only got one shot." "I know," she replied. Her voice was calm, but her fingers tightened around the hilt of her plasma blade. The reclaimer stopped just 10 paces from her. Then it tilted its head, like it was studying her. She saw herself reflected in its red eyes, small, fragile. "Marked. You think I'm weak," Zarala said, voice steady. "You think I'll run like the others." The reclaimer raised a long, thin arm. A pulse emitter flicked open from its wrist. She didn't wait. Zarala charged. Her blade crackled to life, slicing down through the air, but the reclaimer moved faster than she expected. It dodged left, spun, and fired a stun blast. It hit her. Sighed. Pain surged. Her body staggered. She recovered quickly, slashing upward. This time she scored a hit. The blade cut across its shoulder, sparks flying. The creature stumbled back, hissing in static. From above, hidden in the ceiling, Ryder watched through a cracked monitor. His finger hovered over a trigger. "Just a little closer," he muttered. Zarala fought like fire. Spinning, striking, dodging. Every movement was precise. She was fast, yes, but the reclaimer was relentless. Its claws extended. It swung wide and finally caught her leg, sending her crashing into a wall. "Zarala!" Ryder shouted, but she stood again, blood running from her brow, one wing limp. She didn't give up. She never did. The reclaimer lunged. She dodged and screamed, "Now!" Ryder slammed the trigger. The floor under the reclaimer exploded, an old maintenance vent rigged with volatile fuel. Fire swallowed the corridor. The shockwave shook the entire base. For a second, everything was flames and thunder. Then silence. Zarala coughed, waving smoke away. She limped forward, weapon raised from the rubble. Something twitched. The reclaimer's body was half buried, its armor cracked, one limb missing. It tried to rise. Zarala stepped closer. "You're done." It looked up at her, eyes dimming, and then it spoke. Not with words. With sound waves. A rough, guttural voice echoed into her mind. "You were marked. You belong to the hive." Zarala's eyes narrowed. "I belong to no one." She stabbed her blade straight through its core. The reclaimer let out a final static shriek and fell still. Behind her, Ryder ran in. "Is it dead?" Zarala nodded. "Very." He knelt by the body, scanning it. "You know what this means?" "They're serious about hunting me." He looked at her. It wasn't just a hunter. That thing had long-range signal tech. Even in death, it might be transmitting. Zarala cursed. "So they'll know where we are." "Soon." She looked around. The moon base wasn't safe anymore. "What do we do?" Ryder paused. "We leave." "But not to run, to fight." Her eyes met his. "You mean?" "Go there." He nodded. "To the Kravax vessel cluster. Hit them before they hit anyone else. End this." Zarala hesitated. "That's suicide." "Maybe," Ryder said. "But it's better than hiding for the rest of your life. And you, Zarala, you're too dangerous to be their prisoner." She stood still. Then slowly a smile curved on her bloodied lips. "You sound like a Valexian now. I'll take that as a compliment." They turned back toward the ship. But before entering, Zarala looked back at the burnt remains of the reclaimer. She touched the scar on her neck. She had refused the human's warning once. Now, she would lead with him. And this time, they would pay the price. Asterisk, the stars blurred. As the old stealth ship jumped to warp. Inside, Zarala stared at the display screen, which showed their destination, a dense cluster of Kravax vessels floating near a dying star. Ryder called it the Hive's Heart, the command center for their invasion fleet. She had seen maps before, read reports. But now she would face it directly. "You're sure about this?" Ryder asked, adjusting the ship's weapon systems. "No." "Turning back once we're close." Zarala didn't hesitate. "I've never been more sure." She had once dismissed his warning. That mistake had cost her everything. Her city, her squad, her future. But now, she had nothing left to lose, and vengeance was a sharp blade. Ryder finished rerouting power to the shields. "We won't last long in a fight. But if we can land inside one of their data ships, we might be able to access their hive signal, shut down their command." Zarala raised an eyebrow. "Disable the entire fleet from the inside?" He nodded. "It's not just a guess. Humans fought the Kravax 2 decades ago. We lost, but we learned things, weaknesses in their linked neural networks." Zarala smirked. "Why didn't you tell me that earlier?" "You weren't ready to hear it." She let out a dry chuckle. "Fair enough." Suddenly, an alarm pings. They had entered Kravax space. Ahead, through the glass, hung a terrifying sight. Thousands of dark, curved ships glowing with sickly green veins. Organic plating wrapped around metal cores. They looked like living things. Breathing, watching. "I've never seen anything like this," Zarala whispered. "They don't build fleets. They grow them. Ryder replied as they neared. The ship cloaked itself, silent and unseen. Ryder steered toward the back of a large hive frigate where a docking port blinked dimly. There, he pointed. That port leads into the data core. If we get inside, I'll plant a disruption spike. It'll fry their signal flow. Without it, their whole fleet goes blind. Zarala strapped on her gear. And what happens after? He shrugged. Hopefully we run fast. She nodded, lifting her blade. Let's go. The two moved through the connecting tunnel, entering the Bivda, Krevak's vessel. The inside was worse than Zarala imagined, walls of pulsing flesh and metal, dripping with strange fluids. Lights flickered like the heartbeat of a beast. It's alive, she muttered. Partly, Ryder said. Their tech blends biology and machine. As they moved deeper, strange whispering noises filled the air. Neither of them spoke. They knew they were not alone. Zarala's hand stayed on her blade. Ryder gripped his rifle tight. Then a shriek echoed from the corridor. Figures emerged from the walls. Krevak's drones. Long limbs, empty eyes, silent except for the hiss of their breath. They know we're here, Ryder shouted. Zarala didn't wait. She rushed forward, blade spinning in deadly arcs. She moved like lightning, cutting down the first drone cleanly. Ryder shot another in the chest, but they just kept coming. We need to reach the core, he yelled. Lead the way. She shouted back. They ran, slashing and firing. The corridor twisted, turned, and finally opened into a large circular chamber. At the center, a massive brain-like structure pulsed with green light connected to dozens of glowing tubes. That's it. Ryder rushed to the console. Cover me. Zarala turned to face the entry point. More drones were coming. She didn't hesitate. She met them head on, blade flashing, blood flying. She took hits. One claw tore her shoulder armor. Another grazed her cheek. But she didn't fall. She wouldn't fall. Behind her, Ryder pulled the disruption spike from his pack. Almost. Done. One drone slipped past her, headed straight for him. Ryder, behind you. He turned just in time to see it leap. Zarala jumped between them, taking the hit full force. They crashed to the floor. The drone raised its claw, but she drove her blade upward into its chest. It fell limp. Ryder knelt beside her. Zarala? She groaned. I'm fine. Just don't waste it. He turned back to the console and slammed the spike in. The core lit up, then began to shudder violently. Lights blinked. Tubes snapped. Alarms blared. It's working, he yelled. We have 90 seconds before this whole place melts down. Zarala stood, bleeding but alive. Then let's get out of here. They ran back through the hall as the ship began to collapse. Walls cracked. Flames burst. The Krevak screamed behind them, blinded and confused. They dove into their ship. Ryder launched them out as the entire hive frigate exploded behind them, sending out a shock wave that rippled through the fleet. Krevak ships began to drift, turn, collide. The fleet was falling apart. The Krevak's fleet burned behind them, one by one. The alien ships spun out of control, crashing into each other, exploding in flashes of red and green. Without the hive signal, their coordination was gone. Chaos consumed them, inside their tiny stealth ship. Ryder held the controls steady as debris slammed past. Sparks flew from the cockpit walls. The engine screamed in protest. Zarala sat beside him, her shoulder bleeding, her body bruised, but her eyes burned with fire. We did it, she whispered. Not yet, Ryder grunted. We still have to survive this field. The ship jolted as another piece of wreckage scraped their wing. Alarms blared. One of the fuel lines was leaking. The warp drive was overheating, but Ryder didn't stop. He guided the ship through the remains of the hive frigate. past disabled Krevax patrols, and finally into the emptiness beyond the battle. Only then did he let out a long breath. Zarala leaned back, exhausted. Her body hurt, but her pride swelled. She had once mocked this human, ignored his warning, thought him beneath her dot, and now? He had saved her world, even after it was too late. You know, she said quietly, on Valexia, admitting your mistake is considered shameful. Ryder glanced over. Then don't say it. I will anyway. She looked him in the eye. You were right. I should have listened, and I'm sorry. He smiled faintly. Thanks. Though I'd rather have a med kit than an apology. She chuckled, then opened a small locker beside her and tossed him one. There. Take your reward, human. He patched the burn on his arm. What about you? Zarala shook her head. These wounds are mine to feel. I earned them. They floated in silence for a moment, watching stars drift by. Then Zarala asked, What now? Ryder leaned back. We broadcast what happened. Show every colony what the Krevax are and how to fight them. Without the hive signal, they're scattered, weaker. But they'll regroup. She nodded slowly. Then we'll be ready next time. We? He raised a brow. Zarala stood, ignoring her limp. I'm not returning to the old ways. My counsel is gone. My rank means nothing now. But you gave me purpose again. Ryder looked down. I didn't mean to. And that, she said, is exactly why it worked. They entered orbit around a quiet planet, a human outpost. Ryder activated the beacon. We'll rest here, he said. Then begin the warnings. Zarala glanced at the stars one last time. The Krevax thought marking me made me theirs. They were wrong. They always underestimate the ones who fight back, Ryder said. Especially humans, she smirked. And Valexians who learn. A few hours later, as they stepped off the ship and into the dusty outpost hangar, a group of startled humans rushed toward them, medics, soldiers, officers. One of them stepped forward. Are you? The ones who disabled the Krevax hive? Ryder nodded. Zarala didn't speak. Instead, she looked around at the gathered crowd humans, some injured, some scared, but all alive, and she said, loud and proud, we are not prey. We are the storm they never expected. The officers saluted. The medics moved in dot, and as the sun rose on that distant outpost, a new chapter began not just for her or Ryder, but for all who dared to defy extinction.